Welcome to our next episode of Small Town Downtown, where we kind of meander our way through a bunch of towns with less than 5,000 people, but are incorporated towns. And we check out the main street, basically, the historic area, the business district of those towns. So that's what we're going to do. We're in Poplar Bluff. We're going to start in Poplar Bluff, Missouri, kind of the southeast part of the state. It's bigger than 5,000, so we're not going to include that one in this video. But we're going to go on Route 60, kind of goes west and heads towards Springfield. And we're just going to stop at the incorporated towns that fit that description along the way. I've never been to any of these places, so it should be interesting to cruise through and see what they have. At the end of the video, we'll rank them from best to worst in terms of how interesting they look in a quick pass through. So keep track as we go along and we'll compare at the end. And so let's go ahead and get started, leaving Poplar Bluff, Missouri.
Our first town is Elsinore, population 416. We're in Carter County. Elsinore was founded in 1888 when the local landowner gave the Houck Railroad a right-of-way across his land, laid out the town, and built a railroad depot on the south side of the creek. Post office opened in 1889. It's not exactly certain how the town came to be called Elsinore, but the most widely accepted story is the chief engineer of the Houck Railroad named the town after Elsinore Castle, with one L, in Denmark, the setting of the William Shakespeare's Hamlet, and the post office added the second L to make it unique. Population has been pretty small over the years and is mostly grown. Went down in the last census, but mostly has gone up to 416. Next is Van Buren, population 747. It's the county seat and the largest town in Carter County. It was named after then Vice President of the United States, Martin Van Buren. Founded in 1833, post office opened the following year. And it was the county seat of Ripley County until 1847, when the county seat was moved to Doniphan. After removing the county seat, Van Buren declined to just 4 families. Then in 1859, Van Buren became part of the newly created Carter County, and then was selected to become the county seat. So it was pretty small in the early days. Like I said, it went up and down, and then as the census started there again in 1930, generally has gone up, just like our last town, and went down just a little bit in the latest census. This is the town of Winona, population 950, and we are now in Shannon County. Post office has been here since 1888. The community was named after Winona, Minnesota, the native home of an area lumberman. The name is also a Sioux word meaning firstborn. The town lies within the Mark Twain National Forest. Population was higher in the late 1800s than it was in the early 1900s, and then gained a lot of momentum around 1970, 1980, over 1,000 people, and then did decline quite a bit in the last census down to 950. Birch Tree, population 541. We're still in Shannon County. Post office name Birch Tree has been in operation since the 1860s. The community was given the name for a grove of birch trees near the original town site. The population has been pretty steady all throughout the years, usually between 400 and 700 people. Next up is Mountain View, population 2,533, and we are now over to Howell County. Mountain View was platted in 1888, named for the panoramic views from the elevated town site. Post office has been called Mountain View here since 1879. Population pretty steady in the early days and then skyrocketed through the mid 20th century, went up almost every census until the last census in 2020 when it went down to 2,533. As you can see, it has started raining, and it's going to be raining for the rest of our trip today. Willow Springs, population 2,164, as we remain in Howell County. Willow Springs was named from its position at the site of a spring, you guessed it, surrounded by willows. Post office opened in 1869, and Steve Cropper, a member of the Blues Brothers Band, is from Willow Springs. Population was a little bit higher at the early days, then dropped down, but then went up consistently throughout the years and has been pretty similar since 1950, raising about 200 from 1900 all the way up to 2164 today. Now we are in Kabul, Missouri, population 1,946, and in Texas County. Some interesting stories here. One story about how it got its name was after Kabul, Afghanistan, using an older English spelling of the name. In 1882, the British Army had just withdrawn from Kabul at the end of the Second Anglo-Afghan War. As local legend goes, one of the construction engineers who built the railroad through this Kabul also worked on a railroad construction in Afghanistan and thought this area of southern Texas County looked similar to the region of Kabul, Afghanistan. Prior to being called Kabul, the community was known as Cedar Bluff. It's the only Kabul in the entire United States. Another story claims that it was named after the Indian chief who lived there, whose name was Chief Kabul, pronounced Kabul and spelled Kabul. The story continues that the chief and his sweetheart jumped together to their deaths off Cedar Bluff as their parents disapproved of their relationship. This legend was depicted in the 1903 poem Legend of Kabul. Population was much smaller in its early days and got over 1,000 in 1940 and doubled in size from that point. Mostly throughout today has been around 2,000 and is at 1,946 today. Mountain Grove is our next town, our biggest town here at 4,313. It's in Texas County and Wright County. In 1841, a settlement was built on land east of here near a spring in a grove of hickory timber. The post office was established and named Hickory Spring in 1851. That lasted until 1861. 1859, new post office named for Judge Robert Fryan, a prominent figure in the early county history. A general store was built at the crossroads about 1 mile west of Hickory Spring. Post office's name was changed to Mountain Grove in 1875. The population figures have risen consistently through the years. It did dip a little bit in the last census down to 4,313. Next up is Norwood, population 578, and we are now in Wright County. Norwood was laid out in 1882. The community was named by lawyer W.S. Thompson, who was inspired by the novel Norwood, or Village Life in New England by Henry Ward Beecher. Post office has been in operation here since 1882. It's always been a fairly small town, but did grow in population there from 1970 to 1980, and then has kept growing. And like a lot of these towns, it has gone down in the last census to 578. Our final town is Mansfield, population 1,193, and we continue to be in Wright County. Mansfield was platted in 1882 by F.M. Mansfield and named for him, obviously. Post office has been in operation here since 1882. Population, like a lot of these towns, grew through the early 1900s and into the close to the year 2000, and then dipped. This one has dipped for the last 3 census surveys down to 1193 from a high of over 1400.
Well, the rain sure made for a unique perspective on trying to check out these downtowns. Probably didn't help some of them. Would have been nicer to be able to show my, let my camera really see around some of those places. There was a lot of towns where it was kind of a circular or square downtown. And I was just trying to protect the camera to not get so wet and so you could see a little bit of the cool buildings. But there were a lot of cool buildings. And so I'm going to, at the top of my list, I'm going to go with Mountain View. It's easy to get them confused because there was a couple towns with the word mountain, but I'm going to go with Mountain View as my top town, just slightly ahead of Willow Springs. And in third place, I'm going to give Mansfield, which was the last town in the video. But there were a lot of towns that were really good. Some of them had some interesting stories as to how they got their names, or a couple different stories as to, local legends of how they got their names. So what was your list? Here's my ranking from 1 to 10. And these are definitely some cool towns and really beautiful driving. I wasn't able to show very much of the driving because of how much rain there was, but definitely a fun place or fun area of Missouri to explore. Elsinore doesn't have much of a downtown, but they got a death go around. Sorry about the wind. It's really windy today. I like the colors, kind of Denver Broncos. Spins really well. We're gonna give it an 8.0. Birch Tree, it's a little less windy now, but it's starting to rain. Check it out. Spins really good. I don't know, I'm gonna give it 8.5. Are you to make sure I don't park on the grass? Look at the raindrops falling. That's pretty cool. That's the backup camera. The glorious side of YouTube. Just waiting for it to stop raining so I can film this downtown and Mountain View. What park? What park you going to? What park? What? What park? And they got an old jail, I think. What a strange park.